Match wits with the Tri-State's top high school students on the varsity sport of the mind, Ashland's High Q. Today, Mount Hope High School from Mount Hope, West Virginia meets Scioto Northwest High School from McDermott, Ohio. And here's your host for Ashland's High Q, Ernie Anderson.
Thank you, oh illustrious producer, Chuck Minsker. That blew his name. He's going to slap me and not pay me for doing this. Welcome to our 17th season of Ashland's High Q. We're in round one, and we got two good teams here. Let's see who will start to answer bunches of questions in round one. Good luck. 20-point bonus teams for this toss-up. It is formed by the intersection of Broadway and 7th Avenue between 42nd and 44th Streets in New York City. For 10 points, identify this celebrated square.
Scioto Northwest, Ron.
Times Square.
Times Square. Chance for 20. His name translates as Son of the Father, ironically paralleling a title used for Jesus Christ. For 20 points, name this minor, New Testament figure, a criminal released upon the demand of the crowd when Pilate proposed to release Jesus. Your answer. Barabbas is right for 20. A 20-point bonus for this toss-up. He boasts of having never read the Republicans' contract with America and may well be its most effective foe as the master of the arcane rules of the Senate. For 10 points, name this former Democratic leader and very senior senator from West Virginia.
Mount Hope, Chris.
Robert Byrd.
Robert Byrd, the West Virginia team gets that. A chance for 20 points now. These animals have been thought to be all passive filter feeders, but a truly carnivorous species that eats crustaceans was recently found in the Mediterranean. For 20 points in Mount Hope, name these light, porous, aquatic animals of the phylum Porifera. Your answer?
Starfish.
No, it's sponges. Oh, no points there. 25-point bonus for this toss-up. Longevity was a family tradition. He wasn't born until his father Enoch was 65 years old, and he himself didn't have any kids until he turned 187. He then lived another 782 years. For 10 points, name this oldest biblical.
Scioto Northwest, Guy.
Methuselah.
Methuselah figure, and a chance for 25 now on your bonus, Scioto Northwest. Proposals to eliminate U.S. farm subsidies would be bad news for Kansas, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Idaho, which get between 10% and 25% of all the money they send back to Washington, or they send to Washington, returned in such subsidies. For 5 points each, what other 5 states get back over 25% of their federal revenues in farm subsidies? Your answers? We guess some states.
Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma.
No. Iowa, Montana, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, so no points there. 20-point bonus for this toss-up. It began in 1810 to celebrate the marriage of the Prince of Bavaria and has continued to run for 2 weeks every autumn ever since. For 10 points, name this annual fest in Munich.
Mount Hope, Randy.
Oktoberfest.
It is, Randy, the Oktoberfest. A chance for 20. He began as the irascible working-class Londoner Alf Garnett in the BBC series Till Death Do Us Part. He was reworked and renamed for American audiences. For 10 points apiece, what loudmouth New Yorker on what hit TV show starring Carol O'Connor, Rob Reiner, and Sally Struthers? Would have been Archie Bunker from All in the Family. We didn't have time to get an answer out of that one. That ends our warm-up round. We'll be back here to finish round 2 when Ashland's High Q returns.
You'll never catch one of my kids falling asleep in class. It's impossible. You've got to make learning fun. Entice them to want to learn. So I add a little twist to whatever I do. It's all about achieving higher academic standards.
Mrs. DeVore believes higher academic standards spark enthusiasm. That's why Ashland honors her.
It's easier for me to learn something if I do it, and it's the same for my students. Just telling isn't science. We do science. Wait until they see what I have in store for them tomorrow.
Over the river and through the woods, to Pilgrim Glass we go. We'll find everywhere the things that we'll share when the season's all aglow. In all the cases and on the shelves, the treasures that will make all our friends, loved ones, and kin so happy for Christmas' sake.
welcome you back here. Let's check the scoreboard after our warm-up round 1, and we'll find in a close one, Scioto Northwest leading Mount Hope 40-20. And now, as you are stuffed full of turkey from Thanksgiving, sitting back, relaxing, let's review the rules of the game, Ashland's High Q.
The game consists of 2 types of questions. Toss-ups are worth 10 points each, and bonuses are worth a stated number of points. On a toss-up, you must signal and be recognized before answering. A right answer earns your team 10 points and a bonus question. A wrong answer and the question goes to your opponent. You may interrupt a toss-up, but if you do, you must answer immediately. Interrupting with a wrong answer will cost your team 5 points, and the question is finished for your opponent. You have 3 seconds to answer a toss-up, 5 seconds on a bonus or part of a bonus. The game begins with a 3-minute warm-up round. That's followed by a 5-minute round and a final 8-minute round. If a round ends while a question is being asked, that's it. If you're answering a question when the round ends, you may complete the answer or part of an answer only. All questions are researched and authenticated by the staff of the College Bowl Company Incorporated. All decisions of the moderator and judges are final.
All right, teams, there we go. That's how we play. It's 40-20, Scioto Northwest in the early round 1 lead. Let's begin round 2. Good luck. 20-point bonus for this toss-up. He predicted nuclear bombs in 1914, ICBMs in 1932, and a second world war beginning on the...
Mount Hope, Randy.
Nostradamus.
Not him. 5-point penalty, Scioto Northwest. And a second world war beginning on the German-Polish border in 1933 for 10 points. Who was this futurist, novelist, and author of War of the Worlds?
Scioto Northwest, Kristen.
H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells. Chance for 20. Head north along the Rio Grande and from Las Cruces, and you'll come to this other city, the site each October of the International Balloon Festival. For 20 points, identify this largest city in New Mexico.
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque is the correct answer for 20 points. 20-point bonus for this toss-up. 1995 was a big year for this prime number, as both the America's Cup and the Super Bowl reached this milestone. For 10 points, what's the number?
Scioto Northwest, Ron.
29.
29 is right, Ron. Chance for 20. These days, it seems unusual for a Major League ball player to spend more than a few years with one team. So it's remarkable to note that in his 23-year career, Hank Aaron played for only 2 teams. For 10 points apiece, name these 2 franchises.
Braves and the Brewers.
Correct for 20. 20-point bonus for this toss-up. After touring it in 1988, Nancy Reagan said she now understood what caused the Russian Revolution. For 10 points, identify this opulent St. Petersburg museum that shares its name with Andrew Jackson's Tennessee mansion. That's the Hermitage. Toss-up. Its name comes from the Greek for all meat, probably because it lacks bone and fat. For 10 points, name the second largest gland in the body whose failure can cause diabetes.
Scioto Northwest, Guy.
Pancreas.
It is the pancreas, Guy, and a chance for 20. Its 123-foot Art Deco spire was secretly assembled inside this skyscraper and hoisted atop it in 1930 to make it suddenly the tallest building on Earth. For 20 points, what building, named for an auto giant, held that record for just 1 year until the Empire State Building appeared?
Chrysler Building.
Chrysler Building is right for 20 points. I have a 25-point bonus question, teams, for this toss-up. He appeared in Hammer's Too Legit to Quit video and now has his own debut album, Prime Time.
Mount Hope, Randy.
Deion Sanders.
Deion, a chance for 25 now. In the late 1960s, Carl Sagan identified as a major problem in planetary science why only Saturn had rings. First, Mount Hope, for 5 points apiece, what other 3 planets have since been found to have rings?
Pluto, Mars, and Uranus.
Uranus is right. Neptune and Jupiter are the other 2. Saturn's uniquely spectacular rings have been found to be composed, for 10 points, primarily of what common compound? Answer?
Dust.
No, water. So you had Uranus for 5 points. 30-point bonus for this toss-up. Its Senate recently authorized a memorial for its 12,000 Vietnam vets, even though this NATO nation was not a participant in that war. For 10 points, name this nation that took in some 30,000 U.S. draft dodgers and deserters
Mount Hope, Jeremy.
Canada.
during the Vietnam War. That's right. Chance for 30 points now, Mount Hope. Name this U.S. president after 1 clue for 30, second clue 20, third clue 10. A former college math professor. He's published his own proof of the Pythagorean theorem.
Jefferson.
Not him. He defeated Winfield Hancock for the presidency, but survived less than a year in office.
Jackson.
No, he was assassinated in 1881.
Lincoln.
Answer? He was some kind of cat. Garfield. No points there. 30-point bonus for this toss-up. It moves upward at first, then arches dorsally and proceeds to run downward just in front of the vertebral column and through the diaphragm for 10 points.
Scioto Northwest, Guy.
The aorta.
That's the largest human artery, and a chance for 30. With an average age of just over 60, the current U.S. Supreme Court is the second youngest of the 20th century. For 15 points apiece, what Bush appointee is the youngest justice?
Clarence Thomas.
Yes, Clarence Thomas is right. What Ford appointee is the oldest? Answer? John Paul Stevens. You had Clarence Thomas for 15. 30-point bonus for this toss-up. Of its 1,500, yeah, we'll save that. We'll tuck that one away. We'll use it in the second half. That ends a good first half. We'll validate the score and be back to find out about our young men and women when Ashland's High School. Hiya, how are you? We're just talking about schools here. And speaking of schools, we got two fine ones here today. Let's check the scoreboard. After 2 rounds of play, we find Scioto Northwest leads 155 to 140 over Mount Hope. We've got another 8 minutes worth of questions, team, before we find out the victor in this first round game. Let's go to each of our team members. We're going to start with Scioto Northwest and Kristen, and we'll find out as the only lady in the house today, except Stephanie, our camera person. Well, there's some ladies back here behind the camera, which you can't see. Kristen, who are you, and what sort of things interest you?
I'm Chris Willoughby, and I'm interested in biology. I'm on, of course, the Quiz Bowl team, which is who you see here. I'm also on the Envirothon team, and I'm in the Hope Club.
What do you do on the what was it?
It's a challenge where there are 5 areas in southern Ohio, and the areas consist of certain groups of schools, and you go places, and there are categories such as soils, wildlife, forestry, and environmental issues.
Very good. Vice President Gore would be very happy with your caring of the environment. That's good. We all should be. Thank you, Kristen. Guy, let's talk to you.
My name is Guy Johnson. I'm a senior at Northwest High School. I'm a member of the Marching Mohawks and also a member of the Quiz Bowl team.
Well, what do you play in the Marching Mohawk Band?
I play the drums.
The drums. I guess you just beat that thing silly, don't you? All right. You a good drummer?
Mm.
Do you have a drummer of note that you enjoy, that you watch, that you emulate, that you hope to become one day?
No, not really.
Ron, team captain, is pointing to himself. You can't see that, though. So either Ron is a drummer in the band or he just likes to pound things here. I don't know. Let's talk to Ron. Let's find out now from Ron himself, team captain, Scioto Northwest. Ron, who are you? What do you do?
My name's Ron Monovan. I'm a senior at Northwest. I'm also a member of the Marching Mohawks, and I play bass drum. My interests include history and geography, mathematics.
What does Ron hope to become one day?
I'm going to become a sports broadcaster.
Oh, very good. You know, just about anybody can get a sports broadcasting job these days. Anybody can get a talk show and a sports broadcast. Just become an old washed-up athlete, and you'll be a sports broadcaster. There you go. Ron, tell us about Scioto Northwest, where it is in the great state of Ohio.
School is located in McDermott, which is in northwestern Scioto County, about 10-15 miles north of Portsmouth.
Who's your principal there?
Our principal is Dan Dillman.
About how many students run the halls of Scioto Northwest?
Probably about 550 to 600.
And coaching you here today?
Coach is Mike Glenn.
Mike Glenn, over there in the nether regions of the studio, rooting his team on to victory here, he hopes, in the second half of play. Let's find out now from Michael what sort of things Michael is interested in.
I'm Michael Hoffer. I'm a junior. I attend Bible Club, and of course I'm on the Quiz Bowl team.
We have a lot of Bible questions along the way here on the show, so Michael should answer every one of them. We think, perhaps, maybe. That's the team from Scioto Northwest. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for coming today. Let's turn to an all-gentleman team, or at least we're calling them gentlemen right now. We'll find out. From the great state of West Virginia, it's Mount Hope. Let's talk to Lawrence and find out all about Lawrence.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Evans, and I'm a senior at Mount Hope High School.
And Lawrence, what do you do there at school?
I'm in the marching band, and I enjoy playing soccer, and I enjoy biology.
What do you play in the band?
Saxophone.
Saxophone, as I've said many times on the show, my very favorite instrument. Even though I was a trombone player at Man High School, saxophone was always my favorite. Linda Wendell played saxophone in our marching band. There you go. All right, Jeremy, let's find out about Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy Chris. I'm a senior at Mount Hope High School, and I just like playing football and hanging out.
Where do you go in Mount Hope to hang out? What's the hot spot in Mount Hope? They're all laughing uproariously, even behind the cameras.
Oswald.
Oswald? What is... Uh-oh, we're getting somewhere now. What's Oswald?
I don't know.
Is it a joint? Is it a club? Is it a...
No.
Oh. Is it a town? Is it a place? Is it a... What is it? Do we know?
No, it's just somewhere to go.
Oh. Take a girl, perhaps? I don't know. Jeremy's turning 3 shades of red as we speak. All right, we'll get off that subject. We'll turn to Chris. We'll turn the camera to Chris. Team captain, Chris, talk to me.
My name's Chris Wright. I'm a senior at Mount Hope. I play basketball and I run track.
And you run track. You got any awards for that?
No, I haven't gone to regionals or nothing.
But you hope to?
Yeah, I will this year. Probably.
Tell us about Mount Hope, where it is in West Virginia.
It's in Fayette County, and we have about 200, 250 students in it.
And perennial good sports teams come from Mount Hope?
Yeah, we have a good football team, and our basketball team's always tough.
Okay, very good. Now tell us who your coach is here today.
Mrs. Laundere.
Mrs.
Laundere.
Laundere. Oh, a French name. Laundere. Yeah, right. And did I ask you who your principal was?
George Ward.
George Ward. All right, that's Mount Hope. Team captain Chris. Now let's go to Randy. Find out as we wrap up the little halftime interviews here with who Randy is.
I'm Randy Painter. I'm a senior at Mount Hope, and I just play football, and that's it.
Randy just plays football, that's all, even in his sleep. So, all right, Randy. Are you happy to be here, Randy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go. All right, that's our 2 teams here to play the game. Let's check the score again here at halftime. We'll find Scioto Northwest leads 155-40. Teams who are about to finish the game with 8 minutes worth of questions. Good luck. Got a 30-point bonus for this toss-up. Of its 1,500 franchises, none were owned by African Americans until June 1994. By November 1994, 49 franchises or franchise options had been sold to blacks as part of its agreement with the NAACP. For 10 points, name this restaurant chain.
Mount Hope, Lawrence.
McDonald's.
Not McDonald's, Scioto Northwest. Can you guess a restaurant chain?
Scioto Northwest, Ron.
Burger King.
No, it's Denny's. Toss-up. He died in 1935, but some blamed him for the 1994 baseball strike. He wrote the 1922 Supreme Court decision exempting the game from antitrust laws. For 10 points, who was this great dissenter, son and namesake of a noted poet? Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr. Toss-up. First consumed by Ethiopian monks, it reached its peak of U.S. popularity in 1962, though consumption is now down 40%. For 10 points, name this hot drink being displaced by caffeine-delivering soft drinks.
Scioto Northwest, Kristen.
Coffee?
It is coffee, Kristen, and the chance for 30 points now in your bonus. Name this element. After 1 clue for 30, 2 clues 20, third clue 10. Of its 3 allotropes, alpha or gray is not a metal, while beta or white and gamma are metals. Guess an element?
Carbon.
No, it is used in the title of a Tennessee Williams play.
Tin?
Tell Ron.
Tin.
Tin is right. Also used in bronze and pewter. You got it on the second clue for 20 points. I have a 20-point bonus teams for this toss-up. Its models were American tourists and the Rhine River, and it was painted in Germany in 1851. This large painting, now an American icon depicting an event on Christmas night of 1776, is entitled Washington Crossing. For 10 points, the what?
Mount Hope, Chris.
The Delaware.
The Delaware is chance for 20 now. In 1986, the U.S. accounted for 13% of the world's arms exports. For 10 points apiece. In 1994, was that U.S. percentage 10%, 45%, or 70%?
45.
No, it was 70. Now, in the first 4 years of the 1990s, what Middle Eastern monarchy led in U.S. weapons purchases, buying more than the next 8 largest buyers combined?
Iraq.
No, it's Saudi Arabia, so no points on there. A 30-point bonus for this toss-up teams. The Swiss Army recently updated its communications, thereby laying off some 30,000 messengers who could travel 50 miles an hour at a height of 6,000 feet. For 10 points, name these flying carriers.
Mount Hope, Randy.
Pigeons.
Pigeons is right, and a chance for 30. A race won by a margin of 6.5 hours would normally be considered no contest, but this 1870 race was over a course of 1,100 miles and took over 3.5 days. For 15 points apiece, what 2 famous paddle wheelers, one named for a general, the other for a city, ran this race on the Mississippi from New Orleans to St. Louis? And your answers.
Robert Fulton and John Stevens.
No, it was the Robert E. Lee and the Natchez, so no points on that one. A 25-point bonus for this toss-up teams. In 1993, Sky and Telescope magazine held a contest to come up with a replacement for this astronomical term. One of the first suggestions was from the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip, was the horrendous space kablooey. For 10 points.
Scioto Northwest, Guy.
The Big Bang.
That's the 2-word term we needed. Chance for 25. 5 nations entered yachts for the right to challenge the United States in the 1995 America's Cup. For 5 points apiece, which 5 nations? And your answers.
New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, France, and Spain.
You had them all but Japan. You had Australia, France, New Zealand, Spain. Japan was the other. New Zealand won the right to challenge and then won the cup, by the way. 20 points on that bonus for you. 25-point bonus for this toss-up. The official model, called the Questra, contains 5 layers. The first 3 of the synthetic fiber and woven fabrics, the 4th of polyethylene, and the 5th of polyurethane. For 10 points, name this piece of equipment in the 1994 World Cup.
Mount Hope, Chris.
Sail.
Not sail. Scioto Northwest.
Scioto Northwest, Kristen.
The hull.
No, it's the soccer ball. Toss-up. His 8-line 1956 poem, Swimming, has directly inspired what will be the world's biggest hydroelectric dam, the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River. For 10 points, name this poet and Chinese revolutionary leader. Mao Zedong. Toss-up. Among the many movies about him are those whose titles include And the Amazons, and The Huntress, and The Mermaids, and The Leopard Women, and The Jungle Boy. For 10 points, name this literary creation of Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Mount Hope, Randy.
Tarzan.
Tarzan is right. Chance for 25 now, Mount Hope. Although the Enola Gay exhibit at the Smithsonian received wide publicity in 1995, the plane that dropped the other bomb on Nagasaki has been on display at the U.S. Air Force Museum at Wright-Patterson in Dayton since 1961. For 25 points, what name was given to this other B-29 bomber? Your answer? The boxcar. Nothing there. 20-point bonus for this toss-up. This nation's cultural inheritance has been described as 300 years in the convent and 50 years in Hollywood, reflecting its control by Spain from the 16th to the 19th centuries and by the U.S. from 1898 to 1946. For 10 points, name these islands. Go ahead.
Galapagos.
No, Chris, that's not right. Scioto Northwest.
Scioto Northwest, Ron.
Marshall Islands.
No, the Philippines. Toss up. Its common primary open-angle form may be directly treated by injections of ethacrynic acid, which unclogs the trabecular network, thereby lowering pressure in the eye. For 10 points, name this cause of blindness.
Scioto Northwest, Kristen.
Cataract.
Not cataract. Mount Hope, can you answer? It's glaucoma. Toss-up. When hyphenated, it designates a U.S. $20 gold piece. When two words, it names 3 under par for a single hole of golf. For 10 points, what is this 4-syllable hyphenated term?
Scioto Northwest, Ron.
Double eagle.
Double eagle is right. Chance for 20. The end of the Cold War slowed him down a bit, but after 3 years, came up with a 1994 spy thriller, The Fist of God, set during the Persian Gulf War. For 20 points, who is this British author of The Odessa Files and The Day of the Jackal? Frederick Forsyth. 20-point bonus for this toss-up, teams. Though it has a fraction of the books in the Library of Congress, it's the world's preeminent library for manuscripts, including the oldest copies of Virgil and Euclid. For 10 points, name this library whose works, surprisingly, are not primarily religious. That's the Vatican Library. Toss-up. This German prefix meaning original is being increasingly used in English with the same sense. If we had time, we would have found out the 2-letter prefix, coincidentally the name of the ancient Sumerian city where Abraham is born, U-R. We didn't have time for that. That's the end of the game. We'll validate the score, see who moves into round 2 when Ashland's High Q returns.
So I had a little twist to whatever I did.
Validated the score, and at the end of the game, we find that Scioto Northwest defeats Mount Hope 225-70. So Scioto Northwest will see you in round 2. Mount Hope will send you back to Oswald with our fondest wishes and a copy of the home version of Ashland's IQ, which is a lie. I'm sorry, we don't have a home version. We're working on it. It's hard to get these little desks and stuff in a box, you see. Join us next week for another exciting match. We'll see Johnson Central, last year's winner from Paintsville, against Sheldon Clark, who is a former winner as well on this program. It should be a dynamite game. Don't you dare miss it. Next week here on Channel 13. For all the production crew, it's Ernie G. Anderson. I thank you for watching. So long, everybody.